Did you know that there's a severe autoimmune and immune disease epidemic in our companion animals today, like I've never seen before in my 30-something years of veterinary practice? Well, I'm Dr. Michael Dim, and I'm a holistic veterinarian here in South Florida. I offer in-person consultations to clients in the South Florida area, and I offer phone consultations nationwide. But we really are seeing an epidemic of immune dysfunction and autoimmune diseases in our animals. Now, I want to just go through many of the conditions that actually across many organ systems that are involved with immune disease. And people often don't realize that these common conditions have an immune basis. And at the end, I'll just briefly touch on the major factors that contribute to these autoimmune and immune disorders in our animals. And in other videos, we go into more detail on many of those factors. So whether we're talking about chronic skin disease in our animals or ear disorders, animals with hot spots that chew on their feet, that are scratching all the time, these are actually an overactive immune response to environmental allergens or toxins in the environment, or even sometimes dietary allergens. But it's an immune disease where the animal's immune system is overreacting. Whether we're talking about digestive tract issues, animals with periodic diarrhea or vomiting, or pancreatitis, finicky cats that don't eat very well or vomit a lot of hairballs. These diseases often, again, have an autoimmune basis where the immune system is attacking the lining of the digestive tract, and very often we see a disease called inflammatory bowel disease. So again, another immune disease we see in our animals. Even hormonal disorders in our animals have an immune basis. Record numbers of animals with thyroid disorders and adrenal gland disorders, animals with diabetes, where these all have an immune basis, where the immune system is attacking the endocrine system or the hormonal gland, leading to abnormalities in the hormone function. So, of course, in traditional medicine, we just replace the hormones with synthetic hormones, or we use drugs to suppress excessive production of hormones. But we really should be getting at the underlying causes of these autoimmune and immune diseases in our animals. Respiratory diseases, animals with chronic inflammatory airway disease, and your animals that eventually develop collapsing tracheas that we see in the toy breeds. Again, a lot of this has an immune basis leading to the destruction of the cartilage that makes up the windpipe, or that leads to destruction of the airways down in the lungs. And then we get chronically coughing animals. When we see animals with even cardiac disorders, people say, well, what does a heart disorder have to do with immune disease? Well, a lot of animals that have mitral valve disease, such as King Charles Cavalier Spaniels, very, very common. It's actually been shown that it's an autoimmune response to the valves themselves, leading to the disease. So the basis of the heart condition is actually an immune dysfunction. So even in cardiac disease, neurologic disease in our animals that present with seizure disorders, which is an inflammation of the brain, animals that present with spinal cord disease, such as disc disease and degenerative spinal cord problems. A lot of these, again, have an autoimmune basis where the immune system is overreacting and attacking the body's own tissues. And then, of course, we see joint problems, many joint problems. I often speak of the epidemic that we're seeing in veterinary medicine today of something known as ACL tears, or anterior cruciate ligament tears, in our animals that affects the stifle joints or the knee joints of dogs. And actually, it's not a trauma or an injury. It's actually an immune dysfunction, an autoimmune process where the immune system is, again, attacking the ligaments that make up the knee, and then you get a rupture, and then they present with lameness. And of course, in traditional medicine, they're treated with surgery that costs thousands of dollars. And then they often tear the other side. So it's a genetic immune basis. And then, of course, the ultimate immune dysfunction in our animals is cancer. People don't realize that cancer is actually a breakdown in the immune system. We have cells in our immune system, such as known as natural killer cells, that keep cancer cells in check, that are pre-developing all the time in both people and in animals. So when the immune system breaks down, cancer cells reproduce unchecked. And so even cancer, which is the number one killer of dogs and cats today, has an immune basis. So what are the factors that go into these things, and what can you guys do to minimize the development of autoimmune disorders and cancers in our patients? Well, it goes back to the same factors we've talked about in other videos. hormonal stresses. So we want to keep those sex hormones around as long as possible. A lack of sex hormones is involved with most of the diseases I mentioned earlier. Vaccinations, over-vaccination especially, tremendous factor in autoimmune disorders and cancer. Poor diets, processed kibble, canned food. These foods are loaded with ingredients poor quality ingredients that often lead to an overactive immune response. And again, when consumed over a long period of time, cancer. And of course, the overuse of flea, tick, and heartworm medication, they also distort immune. And when we take a look at what's called a holistic perspective in our animal patients, we want to look at everything that you put on or in the animal as potentially being a factor in immune diseases and cancer. So whether it's injected or ingested or inhaled or applied topically to the animal, these are all different ways various toxins can get in. And so we want to be mindful of all of these factors when we're trying to minimize the development of autoimmune disease. So I'm Dr. Michael Dim, and I'm a holistic veterinarian here in South Florida, and I offer phone consultations nationwide as well as in-person consultations to clients in the South Florida area. Thank you very much.